Well, firstly, thank you so much for that. Because while many of us know about the horrors of what's happening now, it is very interesting to have that history and so important. I mean, the fact that Jayaprakash Narayan was the one who brought the RSS into the fold, and then the Janata Party, and so on and so on. And it also makes me remember some of the things which we were involved in, because during the emergency we were also campaigning here and so on. And then also there was the attacks on Sikhs in 1984.
Yes.
Which was really, nobody was really punished for that till now. And this, I think, feeds inevitably, into all the killings which have happened later. And the things you said also brought back a lot of memories for me personally. I remember our doctor in Delhi, who was a supporter, we thought was a supporter of Jayaprakash Narayan. One day we found out that he was responsible for funding the videos of Muslim women being raped. This is in the 80s. It's in the 80s in Surat and places like that. So, I mean, it goes so deep into the horrors of it. So, to come back to Britain, I mean, in so many ways, I mean, quite apart from Modi, this is a very, very crucial time. You know, we have Trump, we have the Muslim ban, and right here, we may not have a Muslim ban openly, but we do. You only have to go to the detention centers to see how many Muslims there are. You only have to look at the situation of refugees to know that there is really an unofficial Muslim ban. More than that, there is a constant propaganda which goes very deep, the construction of Muslim men and Muslim women, which has been going on here for quite a while. For example, the whole question of gender and violence against women, which is something we are very much involved with. Forced marriage, honor killings, by default, it's assumed that these are Muslim issues, right? And the way in which all of this feeds into the supporters of Modi and the Hindutva brigade in this country is also very interesting, because it emboldens them and allows them to make their propaganda that much stronger. But just to look at the question of how the Modi brigade functions in this country. The HSS, which is the overseas wing of the RSS, which was interestingly first established in Kenya in 1940. Which is, and I'm mentioning this because we have among Gujaratis a large proportion who come from East Africa, and they are the key supporters of Hindutva in this country. Well, in Britain, the HSS was established in 1966, and nobody bothered about it for ages. Then in the 90s, they became extremely strong, or late 80s, in fact. And since then, they have established themselves very deeply in this country, giving both moral and financial support in massive amounts to the Hindutva forces. They have sent, like, the moral support is actually really, really important, because they are constantly writing in papers for the Indian community, glorifying Modi, bringing in cultural programs which are deeply Hinduized and so on. But the financial support is actually also quite shocking. Now, just before 2002, there was something like 2 million pounds raised in this country by Hindutva supporters. And they went straight to Gujarat in January, just before the genocidal attacks. And later on, we found out that Seva International was channeling the money to something called the Panavasi Kalyan Ashram,
Yes.
which was actually involved in getting Adivasis to come out in large numbers to attack Muslims.
And convert.
So this was, happening right then, all from money from here. Then there was a question of vote banks in this country, because we have them here, in a big way. Barry Gardner, who was the MP for Harrow, for Brent, gave a check for £1 million to Narendra Modi personally. Again, in December 2001. So this also was constantly feeding in. Now, Seva International was exposed and investigated by charity commissioners, but they could not complete their investigations. Why is an open question. They indicated to us that they could not do this because the Foreign Office here would not support it. So the links between British business and the British government and India went on right through the period when Modi was banned. And this is very important for us to realize. I mean, he was banned for about 10 years. The ban was lifted in 2012 because, as the government officials told us, the High Commissioner in India, it was important for British business. There was, throughout this whole period, also the use of council offices, money from local councils, because the Hindutva forces were classified as faith communities. And the government was encouraging the development of these faith communities, which really has been extremely negative in a variety of ways, not least increasing racism and Islamophobia. One of the things which was exposed more recently about the HSS was that they run, in their schools, they were preaching things, so this was exposed on an ITV program. They were preaching things about Muslims, saying the number of good Muslims you can count on your fingers. Right? But despite this, they were finally found to be not contravening any law. Right? So it's interesting how these things have built up. But Seva International and whole charity process has become now far more sort of cunning. They do it through smaller organizations. And now there's a huge number of them. The RSS people are constantly coming and going to this country, encouraged by MPs who share platforms with them. Most recently, we heard that they were also, a senior member was going to share a platform with a member of the extreme right in this country. And when they were exposed, they quickly withdrew. Right? But there have been links with the extreme right all the way through, back even in 2007, 2006, and we find the police, for example, sort of linking up with the notion that Muslims are somehow responsible for things like the British version of the love jihad, right? And we had a police officer commenting that, the police have taken note of this and they're doing something about Hindu and Sikh girls being kidnapped. The Sikh community has also got a certain number of organizations which are extremely right-wing and linked up now increasingly to Hindutva. And they have taken this trope to excessive lengths. Although there has been never any evidence that this has happened. When people are challenged, when the police were challenged in 2007, there was no evidence they had to show. There has been such a deliberate targeting of the diaspora in so many ways, but in the sense that, Hindutva outside is portrayed in a kind of, in a way which is, on the one hand, appealing to the kind of smart, westernized young Asian in this country, right? So very aspirational and so on. And on the other hand, to the very, very traditional Hindu, sort of Hindu older generation. So we have the Asian Times, for example, which is funded with Hindutva money and is very much a Hindutva publication. They have columns every 2 weeks by people who are hedge fund managers, who are also Hindus, who then have, their articles saying we must have a world pull in Hindus from across the world, just as Israel does for Jews. And there's also this constant linkage with Israel. Something which I wanted to mention when I was talking about gender is, interestingly enough, Israel is now funding a lot of Islamophobic material around gender. And this is being used very widely by the Hindutva forces. They produced films on honor killings, for example. And interestingly, again, you have Muslims who are happily going along with this. We have also in Britain, of course, massive surveillance going on at the moment. So we have the Prevent program, which is spying on kids in schools. And, there was a 6-year-old boy who talked about a cucumber, and he was said to have said it's a cooker bomb. And he was then taken off to be somehow, like indoctrinated and stopped from becoming a terrorist. And this is only one case. I mean, there's so many cases like that. Now, things are actually getting far worse in Britain from our point of view. Hindu forces are becoming much stronger because we have Preeti Patel, who is a minister in government, who has openly said that she is a great admirer of the RSS. And we have also the universities, which are now got the Hindu Students' Council, which is another branch of the same law. And they have penetrated most universities. I don't know about Westminster, but they certainly are there in UCL, in King's, everywhere. We have been constantly in conflict with the Hindutva forces. Basically, South Asian Solidarity Group has, on the one hand, protested right from the days when Advani was Home Minister, and he came here to support the war in Afghanistan. I remember that we were in a huge protest outside Westminster Hall where he spoke. And then we have been also on protesting right the way through. When Modi came last year, there was a massive protest organized by a number of groups together. So he certainly got the message. And one of our slogans at that time was, Modi, Modi, you can't hide, you committed genocide. So Gujarat was very much in our minds. Now, the other aspect of Hindutva, which I would like to mention here, although it's not directly linked to Muslims and criminalization, is the issue of caste. Now, this is a very, very important issue which the Hindutva forces are really pushing. Some years ago, a law was passed in Britain to make caste discrimination per se illegal. But this law has not been implemented. And they're trying to push to see that it never is. We had a meeting which was held in the House of Commons. It was not actually organized by the MPs, but it was held there by the soft Hindutva lot. But we also went there to hear them, and we also spoke. And because a large number of us were there, we completely stopped them, which was very, very pleasurable to us. But what we heard there was also very interesting. There was a young woman speaking, who was speaking. She said that she thought the caste law should not be implemented because it would cause tensions, and caste is not a bad thing. And how, in fact, caste was all about some people are intellectuals, some are workers. So what's wrong with that? If we can't all be Einstein. So Einstein would be like a Brahmin. So on the one hand, they're going along with this basically this Manu law. But on the other hand, we have people saying that Manu is not relevant at all because caste is completely a creation of the colonialists. So this is the argument which is being, in fact, at the end of April, there's a meeting at Queen Mary's College where, this issue will be very much at the forefront and we're going to challenge So, I think this sort of gives some idea of the type of work we're doing. We certainly want and need a lot more support. So if you're interested, then please be in touch with us and we can move forward from there.
Thank you, Amrit. In fact, one good way to do that would be through Facebook, right? The South Asia Solidarity Group, and you can connect with that. Couple of reflections before we open up. It's very interesting that RSS, which is Rashtriya Swayamsevak, that's a national. They don't use the Hindu in India. But in the West or outside India, they use Hindu. So very clearly, they will claim in India that we are not Hindutva in the sense of being only Hindu. Hindu first means all people who live in India. So they use that magnanimous language. Muslims are Hindus and Christians are Hindus. And therefore, that's Rashtriya. So they'll always conflate it. But very clearly, when they go outside India, they'll use the word Hindu. So Hindu Swayamsevak. And second thing I noticed is when there's but Muslims can't be Hindu. They're part of India. And yet, every census, they'll have a scare. The reality is, if let's say Muslims are Hindus according to their definition, if Christians are Hindus, then even if Muslims become 100% of population, that shouldn't bother them. But even if they change from 14% to 14% only or whatever, they panic. So you could see very clearly that they speak with double tongue. So on one hand, talking about how they are the reasonable one. So they criticize secularism, but they'll always call them pseudo-secular. So all of us will end up being pseudo-secular, pseudo-democrats. All of us are pseudo-intellectuals also, of course. All the language pseudo thing. And in terms of gender, this is where the interesting part is, even when I went to sort of study Hindu, I didn't go with, let's say, gender and feminist angle explicitly, but that came out. So very much about, this is 2004 and 5, love jihad. So I came across that in various different places, and everywhere, the RSS or Bajrang Dal guy, which would be usually Bajrang Dal person, a young man, who'd always talk of how it's exclusive to here, so wherever they were. They said, do you know this is happening here? And no one finds out. Then everywhere else, the same stories, and in all the stories when I tried to push, it was always of a consenting Hindu woman in a relation with a Muslim man, consenting. But then they would say, yes, they're consenting, but they should not consent because that's wrong. And of course, in Nagpur, I also met Muslim women who had been rescued. So Muslim man, Hindu guy, right? But those are kind of things that we talked about. Amrit, you want to say something before we open up? Or?
No, I just wanted to say about the HSS and RSS. I was going to say that HSS claim that they are not linked to RSS. And I think that's one reason they want to distinguish themselves. It's a practical issue as well.
So as HAF, Hindu America Foundation.
Yeah.
Except
they don't want to, they say, no, we have nothing to do with RSS.
I remember when I was doing 10 years ago research, the HSS head of the guy here was the son of the RSS person in Nagpur, and he was the one who put me in touch. Before he realized that, before felt that I was not friendly. Let's
Before
put it that
you
way.
open up,
Yeah.
can I just read a story?
Yeah.
It's a news story from Indian Express.
Okay, no, good.
It's something just to give you a sense of who the RSS is and what the RSS people, what is the level of their intellect. This is the story. The headline is, Cell phones suck energy. Cell phones suck energy, just put some cow dung. And here's the guy, he's showing up his phone with a cow dung on it. And he says, he's Shankar Lal, he's the RSS Akhil Bharatiya Gau Seva Pramukh. He's 76 years old. And he says, I have put this fresh cow dung to save myself from the harmful radiations of the cell phone. It works, believe me. This is an interview. So the reporter asks him, do you keep applying fresh cow dung like people change phone covers? He says, the answer is, cow is our mother. Its excreta and urine are nectar and have the power to save humans from any disease. If cow dung can treat cancer, why can't it save us from a phone's microwaves? He's a scientist. Okay, he knows everything. Haven't you heard that Junagadh scientists in Gujarat have found gold in cow's urine?
Oh, wow.
I put fresh gobar every week on my cell phone. Then he asks other people, he says, show your phones. The other people, they take out their phones to display the cow dung at the back. Everybody has cow dung on their phone.
Jeez.
All the people in my team, be it children, men or women, have cow dung on their phone. Why won't they? They know its magical effects. So the reporter says, can you prove that cow dung can block harmful phone waves? First of all, nobody knows what is a harmful phone wave. So he says, see this pendulum? See how when I place it over the hand of this RSS worker, it starts swinging. Then within the bracket, the reporter writes, he gives it an initial jerk. Look, this man's body has so much energy and the pendulum is swinging because of that. Now when this man holds a phone in his hand, the pendulum won't move. This is because the phone's harmful waves have sucked all his energy. Now let him hold a phone with cow dung on it and hold this pendulum over his hand. See, it's moving again. His energy is saved. So Devi Lal, a former Deputy Prime Minister of India, and who was also a former Chief Minister of Haryana, he once at an election rally, famously he said, "ये Congress party, हमारे यहाँ नदी आने से पहले उसमें से बिजली पहले ही निकाल लेती है." They take the electricity out of the water before it reaches us. The river water, before it reaches us, they have already taken the electricity out of it. So we can never get any. This is the level of the intellect that you are dealing with.